Up here, give us a quick moment. Wait for our feeds to get going. All right, ladies and gents, welcome to the live Edge Q&A. We do this every Friday. I'm Kylan Hurd. I'm a developer for Edge Wallet, and I'm joined by William Swanson, our chief architect.
Greetings.
How's everything going, William?
Good.
Things are pretty busy, aren't they?
There's a never-ending list of things to do.
Yeah, we got a lot of stuff to go over today. I am going to go over the GRIN launch, but we're going to save that for last. We're going to go over a few things beforehand. First things first is the recent point release for Edge.
161.
1.6.1. So usually when we do point release, that means that either we're fixing bugs or we're adding small enhancements, so to speak. And this comes after our more major release of 1.6.0, which happened, I think, about a week ago, right?
Yeah, 160 added a bunch of new partners and stuff, and so it was a big change.
Yeah,
this is just little bug fixes.
Right, and yeah, those big changes were good to have, before we went to the Miami Bitcoin conference. So yeah, this week we have the point release. Let's see here. You want to go over some of the changes?
Improved Bitcoin fee calculations. So Bitcoin blocks are starting to fill up again.
Uh-oh.
And that means the fees need to be a little higher. And we've had logic to automatically go to the internet and figure out, like, okay, what's the average transaction speed for this fee? But that calculation was not as aggressive as it needed to be, so we turned it up the aggression a little bit.
Yeah, this is one of those things that you don't really have to worry about too much when it comes to fiat currency, is it?
No.
I mean, the fee is what it is. Now it's more like an auction, right?
Yeah, it's like, okay, well, I've got to outbid these other people, so I want to be not too aggressive. I don't want to be the top bidder, but I don't want to be like too weak so I don't get a good spot.
Yeah, a significant amount of effort goes into trying to come up with an algorithm to properly calculate the fees to make sure that you don't spend too much money on fees, but also that you are able to get your transactions to go through.
So I think we changed it to target 1 to 3 blocks. So whatever the average fee is for like getting into 1 to 3 blocks, not the next block, but like 1 to 3.
There you go. All right, what else we got here? Add new button to buy and exchange crypto for empty wallets. I know that one. I worked on that one.
You did that. Yeah.
I did do that. That is me. Yes, so now you'll notice if your wallets are empty and you try to do stuff with a wallet that's empty, at least I think, is it for all currencies? I think for all currencies, it'll tell you, hey, it's empty. Do you want to buy some cryptocurrency or exchange for it? So we're helping to onboard people. So a lot of people don't know where to purchase cryptocurrency. Now we're making it easier to do that from within Edge Wallet. Let's see here, fix several UI display bugs. I mean, there's always some UI.
Text centering, capitalization,
right.
little stuff like that.
Improved plugin functionality. I'm wondering if they're talking about.
I think that's like the pinch to zoom. Like if you go into like Wire, I think you could pinch to zoom and that would screw up the display. So we can't do that anymore.
Right. So a lot of changes related to plugins. You'll notice that, and this is a good thing because we've built our app so that we can have third-party services integrate with the app more easily and make things easier on our users. So you're not just using a wallet. You're also able to exchange and do some other functionality all from within the app. So it looks like we have a note here about phasing out Glidera.
So Glidera does not exist inside of Edge. We never put it into Edge. Glidera was always in Airbits. It was the way you could buy and sell within Airbits.
Right.
And it looks like Glidera itself, the company, is shutting down.
Okay.
So Kraken, I think, is the parent company, and they're done with it. They didn't like it.
They bought it, and then now they're shutting it down.
Yeah. Maybe it was
liquidating, I guess.
Maybe it was more of an acqui-hire, right? They acquired the company, took all the people, put them on their other team, and then are shutting down the product they don't really want.
Yeah, that's crazy. So yeah, I guess that will be the end of Glidera, but we have other
Wire.
We have Wire, and we're adding more exchanges. I guess I should say fiat to crypto exchanges as we go on. We're trying our best to cover every geographical region that we can, so that our app can truly be global, and that users from any region should be able to purchase cryptocurrency with fiat. Right.
So one thing that Glidera can do is you can sell out of Edge or out of Airbits, right? I don't think you can do that into Wire yet, but I've heard rumors that some people may be working on that.
Yeah. Let's see here. Okay, so should we get to some of the news here? Let me see. Let me bring some of this stuff up. Lots of stuff in the news here. And for those of you who are watching in the audience, if you have any questions or comments, I know we're on YouTube, we're on Periscope / Twitter, and also Facebook. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to post them, and we'll try to respond to them live while we're on the air here. We like to interact with our audience. So which one do you want to start off with?
Zimbabwe shuts down the internet.
Oh, man. I mean, I guess this is part of, for those of you who don't know, Zimbabwe's just been essentially, I'm trying to think of a nice way to put it. It has been...
It's been hilarious.
It's hilarious unless you're one of the people in Zimbabwe.
I'm
Then
sure.
it's probably not as hilarious.
Well,
But
I
it's a
mean,
train wreck, essentially.
Well, what was it? How many years ago? Was it like 3 or 4 years ago? They had their giant hyperinflation?
Yeah. It's crazy how long this stuff continues, right? That's probably the one thing that surprises me is that when there's a bad situation like Venezuela, you think, oh, man, it's been bad lately. And then you look back and it's been like, maybe a decade or more. And for me, it's like, well, why don't these people do something? But, it's not that easy, is it?
It's not easy to fix once your government goes bad, it's hard to deal with it.
And the government has a lot of people on their payroll, a lot of the soldiers, right, the police. So if you want to go out and start a revolution, well, there's a lot. Unless you have the military or police on your side, you're probably not going to get very far.
Yeah, Zimbabwe dollars have been famous because you could get like $1 trillion bill, like a Bank of Zimbabwe, $1 trillion because they had such a horrible hyperinflation at one point.
Yeah, as many zeros as you can fit on a bill, essentially.
And it wasn't even that long ago. It was like a few years ago. And now they're having more financial trouble because they never really came out of that hyperinflation. The way they stopped the hyperinflation was they just stopped using Zimbabwe dollars and they started using other foreign currencies like euros and dollars. And it's kind of a mess. So the country's still a mess. Money in and out is still difficult. And so recently there were some protests about the price of oil going up like double or 3 times. So because people are protesting in the streets, the government decides, well, they're organizing the protests on the internet, therefore we'll just shut down the internet and the protests will stop.
Right.
That makes perfect sense, right?
And I guess this is one of those things where you have to think, okay, well,
Let's
why
see
is
here.
the internet able to be shut down so easily, right?
Well,
This is a centralization
Central phone companies and all that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Well, that's one point. That's a
Right.
very good point. That you have centralized phone companies that control the access to your cell phone and therefore the internet. But the government's logic actually makes no sense. Because if people are mad at the government, do you think that shutting down the internet is going to make them less mad?
Yeah, but maybe it'll make them it'll make it more difficult to coordinate, right?
Coordinate, but
Yeah.
at some point, if people get mad enough, everyone's just gonna.
Yeah, that's true. If the root problem is not solved, then
Yeah, I mean, people didn't need the internet to organize protests in the past.
Right.
It just makes it more convenient. And now, if everybody's, I mean, before it could just be, okay, oil is too expensive, right? Maybe that affects some people who have cars.
Right.
Now, everybody's going to be mad. It's going to be even worse.
Yep.
So you don't even need to coordinate. The whole town is going to be mad.
Yeah, well, if you go to North Korea, they don't have much internet there, but where's the revolution at? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying is the times you would think that there would be like a revolution getting ready to go, igniting, a lot of times it doesn't quite happen, at least not yet, right?
But I think it's one of those things where you go from having internet, you know what's going to happen. You're plugged into the world. You know what freedom looks like. Maybe to an extent. Maybe you don't have it, but at least you kind of know what it looks like.
Right.
To not having internet, that's a very sharp transition from being someone in North Korea who's never even known that there was such a thing as an internet.
Well, I have friends that are on social media a lot, and they talk about how great it is to just take a break from social media. So maybe the people of Zimbabwe will have time to focus on themselves and nurture their souls and get away from the poison that is social media. It'll be like chicken soup for the soul over there in
Meanwhile,
Zimbabwe.
check out Edge every week on social media.
Yeah. Well, I guess the people who are watching this have internet, so I think they're not too concerned at this point. Oh, this is a big one. So Samsung 10 devices comes with Bitcoin wallets. I heard cryptocurrency wallets, then I heard Bitcoin wallets. My initial reaction was, okay, Samsung, okay, they're smart people, but they're not a cryptocurrency or blockchain tech company. So the likelihood of them being able to integrate multiple currencies was going to be unlikely. So the idea that it looks like, is it going to just be Bitcoin, do you think?
So this is all speculation and rumor. Nobody actually
okay.
knows what's
Great.
going on.
Great.
There was a leak that purportedly Samsung's putting a cryptocurrency wallet of some kind into their forthcoming.
Oh my God, we should buy Bitcoin right now. Everyone buy Bitcoin. Oh no, I heard they're putting Tron in. Yeah, I don't know what to think of the cryptocurrency media, so to speak. So do you think there's legs to this one?
So I'll just say a couple of things about the concept. Whether or not Samsung's actually doing this is a whole open question, and we'll see if that's the case. Right?
Okay.
as a phone manufacturer, you have access to phone hardware,
Right.
which means you can actually put a hardware wallet into your phone.
Right.
You don't need a separate Trezor USB key to plug in. You can actually put the key storage right there on the trusted platform module or whatever.
Okay.
And the claim in this article is that that is what they have done.
Okay.
They actually are using the hardware on the phone to create a hardware wallet that uses the screen and keyboard, but when you go to send crypto, it's actually kind of going to a separate mode where the screen is no longer controlled by Android, but by their trusted platform module that allows you to see where you're sending it to, and you swipe to confirm, and or whatever the interface is.
Okay.
So the idea that they're actually putting in a hardware wallet could be very secure, assuming they're doing it.
Okay.
Now, all of the stuff that goes around a wallet is synchronizing to the network, understanding the transaction format, keeping track of your balances, integrations with Exchange, all that stuff that Edge is doing would still be something you wouldn't want to run inside the trusted platform module.
Right. So it'd be like application layer or something.
Yeah, there's a lot of code involved. So really, if you had a way to store keys securely on a phone and just do signatures, that would be nice for any wallet. Like Edge could perhaps integrate with their API and then have that be the secure storage on the device.
And the idea is to have the connection between like the private key stuff and the actual rest of the phone to be just one small area that can be tightly controlled.
Right.
Okay.
So you have the private key stored in the secure area.
Right.
And then you have all the other app functionality running in the regular Android operating system. And then at the last moment when you go to do that signature, you go to a separate screen that says, yes, I approve, and then you go back into the regular app.
Okay.
So that could be reasonable. Now, whether or not they have done that, nobody knows because it's all speculation.
Right.
But I do think there's an opportunity there for phone manufacturers to have some kind of a thing like that.
And it does make sense for them to be working on this. I think they have to keep an eye on the future. If cryptocurrency really gets as big as some people might think, then yeah, the phone should play a major part, and it makes sense for the phone manufacturers to be a significant part of that.
Now, I will say one caveat with this kind of an architecture is that the keys need to be backed up.
Yeah, or you lose your phone, you're screwed.
You lose your phone, you're screwed, right? So if the keys are securely stored in the hardware wallet on the phone and the phone gets in the toilet, you have no keys.
God, I wish someone would come up with like a better solution
secure
for something.
backup, restoration with like maybe a real convenient like username and password system.
There you go.
I don't know of any wallet that's built anything like that.
Oh, wait a second. That's us.
Oh, that's us, yes.
That's us, yeah. So for those of you who are new to Edge or maybe don't have the app yet, we use username and password. We encrypt your private keys, your private data, and back it up in the cloud. So if you lose your phone with us, as long as you know your username and password or some of your credentials, then you're fine. We got you covered, right?
Right, exactly. So it'd be nice to be able to take the Edge backups, send them into the secure module, decrypt them there, have them be there where the signatures are, and then to have the rest of the app run outside.
As a chief architect, it sounds like that would be a lot of work for you.
That's been something we've maybe been working on, perhaps.
Oh, look at that.
We actually have a project internally, which we don't have any released timeline for it, but we're trying to get the core of our app, the part that does the encryption and stuff like that, to run separately from the GUI part.
There you go.
So eventually, perhaps we'll have it.
Getting very futuristic here. So this one was kind of interesting. Venezuela's new interim president. So there's some guy who I think he was one of the leaders of like one of the chambers of the of Congress there in Venezuela, and essentially he's kind of, I think him and the body, the legislative body that he's head of, have declared him as the leader. They're saying that Maduro, either the election wasn't valid or Maduro's rule isn't valid. So they are asserting themselves, and now you see this kind of shuffle, I guess you could say, where a lot of the foreign heads of state are trying to decide who are they going to support.
Who is the president?
Yeah, who is the president? Who do you want to support? Who should you support, or should you even say anything at all? Right? Because I know a lot of people have been talking about, okay, Donald Trump, is he going to try to diss Maduro by supporting the opposition? But something like that could be very counterproductive. There's this idea of rallying around the flag, and that's essentially when a foreign power starts to meddle with your domestic policies, that the people in that country tend to rally around whoever
Whatever
is the
Trump
strong
says,
man.
I hate it, so therefore I don't.
No, I mean like with George W. Bush, when we got attacked on 9/11, all of a sudden the approval rate for George W. Bush, who didn't have to do much of anything, just skyrocketed.
Right. So if Trump approves this new guy, then Maduro's ranking might actually go up just because a foreign power is
right. And you could argue that that's why Maduro and Chavez were able to stay in power for so long. Of course, that's just an argument, you know.
Yeah, because it was the anti-American thing to do, and you don't want big foreign powers like, I don't know.
And it always gave them an excuse. They could say, oh, yeah, our economy is bad. Oh, but it's because of these sanctions. You know what I mean? Right. So you don't want to give a dictator an excuse as to why the country's failing. You want him or her, I guess, to be the only one who can really take any blame. But
so basically, let's have the American presidency not say anything about the Venezuelan presidency. Let's just let different countries be different countries.
Yeah, but just think about, well, I mean, the American president not saying anything. I mean, we're talking about the tweet master, right? He'll say anything about anything.
But anyway, this new guy is apparently pro-Bitcoin and anti-petro.
Is he really? I did not know that.
So that's the claim, is that he's made some comments in the past that says he is more in favor of Bitcoin as a currency than the Venezuela's own petro.
Yeah.
coin.
Well, the petro thing, I don't even know if it actually launched. You know what I mean? It was like a half launch. You know, there's last minute shuffling going around. I think they said some of the white paper was plagiarized, stuff like that. So...
Well, anyway, they have a bad inflation going on down there. And so Bitcoin has been a sort of asset that people could go to sort of escape the hyperinflation.
Right.
And if this new guy is pro-Bitcoin, that could really work in Bitcoin's favor given all the economic circumstances of the country. Who knows, though?
Yeah, I guess we'll find out. Venezuela, like I said, it's one of those things that continues to drag on. You would hope that they would get out of the situation that they're in, but those things do take a while. Let's see here. What else? So I think we've covered enough of the news stories. One thing, obviously, I want to talk about was the recent GRIN launch. For those of you in the audience who are not familiar with GRIN, essentially it's a new currency that's privacy-oriented that launched on January 15th. So I don't know if that's like 10 days ago or something like that. And so the launch has been very interesting. Before the launch, maybe a couple months ago, we were interested in it at Edge. So we put together some mining rigs. I have one that's right off camera here, and then another one in the office. So I personally was putting together these rigs. And I was interested in the currency in general because I tend to be a privacy advocate. So I'm a front-end developer. I went into the community and just kind of asked, okay, who wants some help on the front end? And I actually found someone who is responsible for a lot of the stratum and mining-oriented portions of the currency. And he was looking for a front-end developer. So I was like, okay, let me help you with the front end. Turns out he was putting together a mining pool, because he's the guy that does the mining stuff, the stratum. So I think he was kind of thinking, okay, well, why not try our hand at creating a mining pool? So I think they announced January 15th as the launch, somewhere around like December 15th. So it was like, okay, we're launching in a month. And I remember immediately when that happened, my partner, there was a bit of a scramble. He was worried. And in retrospect, looking at the launch, I can see why. And to be honest, January 15th, this launch has caught a lot of people by surprise. A lot of people were not prepared. And I think I'll go into some of that in a moment here. So one of the big takeaways that I found was the amount of people that were on testnet before launch, mining, and the number of mining pools. There is no way to estimate based on testnet. I think we had somewhere around, and they don't do hashes per second, they do graphs per second. I think on testnet in the days leading up, we're somewhere around 3,000 or 6,000 graphs per second. When it actually came to launch, it was right after launch, you're talking more like 400,000, 500,000. So off by a factor of 100. Yeah.
Wow.
And then now it's at something like 1.5 million. So at that point, you're off by factors of hundreds at that point. So that's
was kind of a lot of mining power to kind of come out of the woodwork and just jump on the coin.
Yeah, it was. And I think one of the big surprises was that you would think that, okay, on testnet you see a certain number of mining pools, but then on launch there are mining pools that come out of nowhere, and you see there's little icons of where they're from, and for a while it's like the top 3 were all just China. So these guys are lurking under the surface, And there are some significantly sized mining pools in the U.S. I know GRIN is one of them. They're BlockCypher, who some people might know as more of like a blockchain explorer company. And so it was a bit of a rough start when things launched. I will say our mining pool, we were not ready for this sort of scale. So we had issues with our server, Stratum servers, database, stuff like that. But every pool was having issues. So I think we were a little bit stressed out toward the beginning. And sometimes you have to keep it in perspective because you might think that your competitors are doing great, but until you actually see how they're doing, ask the miners what they're thinking of the mining pools, then you start to realize that everyone's having issues, right? So
I just want to clarify, this mining pool is not an Edge project. It's actually
it's
project.
not. I'm sorry. Yeah, no, the mining pool that I'm working with is, it's not directly related to Edge at all. But yes, so it was quite an interesting experience. Let's see here, scaling issues. So one of the issues too is that we try to give up to the block statistics, and the blocks come once a minute, right, on average. So just think about a database and a server. Okay, you have all these miners. Let's say you get a block reward. All of a sudden, you have to calculate who gets what rewards, and then you're already on to the next block.
Right.
And if you get hit block twice in a row, then all of a sudden you have to do these calculations twice in a row. The server can get very clogged very quickly. And that's one of those things that people don't think about. They think about, okay, block times. I want fast block times, fast confirmations. Of course, that there are benefits to that, but there are also costs. So I think that's one of the things that a lot of the users probably don't see, even the miners maybe don't see, but something that's felt more by mining pools than just about anyone else. Yeah, so
it's hard to synchronize a fast blockchain. I mean,
Ethereum
has a really fast blockchain. It's like 30 seconds or something.
Yeah.
And it's so fast that they actually have so many orphans that in the protocol have a way to compensate the orphans because it's just going to happen. And they didn't want to have centralization issues.
Yeah. So one thing that we're looking at is that.
So wonder if 10 minutes actually is better. And then you have some really secure way of handling unconfirmed transactions, which there's been a lot of research on too.
Yeah. Yeah, I think 1 minute block time is a little unnecessary. It's a little overkill if I had to give an opinion on it.
Because if you use Lightning Network, then you confirm a channel, and then you have your transactions go through the channel instantly without any confirmations, and it's perfectly fast. And then you don't care how long. Block times could be 10 minutes or 20 minutes, and it's fine because everything seems fast.
Right.
And the Bitcoin Cash people are working on other research on ways to pre-approve transactions to have an idea that, okay, if this transaction is in the set of things we like, and then it doesn't get in the next block, a conflicting one comes in the block, then we're going to drop that block.
Right.
We're just going to, as a mining pool or as a collective of miners, agree that that's not valid. So some way of voting with hash rate. I don't know if this is a good idea or not, right? But I'm saying that there's research going on into whether, other ways to have not fast block times, but still have instant confirmations.
Right. Yeah, there's a lot of, and that's part of scaling, right? You talked about how Bitcoin was having its fees slowly going up.
Right.
It's just a matter of time before we hit that really bad point that we did 2 Novembers ago or so when fees were
$20.
$20, $40, something like that. And you have to think of if cryptocurrency does not have a solution to scaling by then, that could be really bad, right?
Yeah, we had negative adoption. I mean, guys like Dell, Steam, and Microsoft used to take Bitcoin for payment for their stores, and now they don't. And that's really, we as Edge, we're a mobile wallet, so we really like people to spend cryptocurrency in their day-to-day life.
Right.
And to see negative adoption like that is really hard on us.
Absolutely.
Just personally, not even as a company too, because people don't open their app as often, but just as us, as enthusiasts, we want to see it succeed in that way.
Yeah, absolutely. And without adoption, it's and you also had the volatility issues as well. So there are definitely some kinks. Cryptocurrency is not quite mature enough yet, I think, for mainstream, but we're kind of handling the issues one by one, right?
So you've talked a lot about, you got involved in this new cryptocurrency. You started a pool. You had the adventure of having that launched. But what's cool about GRIN? Why would I care about GRIN as opposed to EOS or Bitcoin or any of the other dozens of currencies that are in Edge already?
Yeah, so And to be fair, I'm not a cryptographer, but essentially one of the big things about GRIN is that it uses, it's an implementation of Mimblewimble, which uses range proofs in order to reduce the size of the blockchain in general. And this is great because if you're trying to, how would I say, if you want to reach mainstream levels of adoption, then you need a blockchain that doesn't grow too quickly. And I don't remember the exact numbers, but I remember hearing Andrew Polstra, who I think worked or works for Blockstream. He's kind of one of the Mimblewimble, I don't know, creators, if you will. That essentially it's something like Bitcoin, if they had used Mimblewimble on its blockchain, would have been able to reduce its blockchain footprint, something like from hundreds of gigabytes down to just a couple gigabytes. So that's definitely one of the big things. And obviously another thing is it's still, how do I say this? It has better privacy than Bitcoin, maybe not quite Monero levels, but kind of somewhere in between. And a lot of people who are privacy advocates want more options for privacy. Right now it seems, or at least in the past, it has seemed that Monero was kind of the leader.
So it's private and efficient. So what we're trying to...
Right. Yes. So now one of the issues, and this is the main issue right now, is when it comes to usability, you essentially need, for the most part, you need to have a port open. You need to have an open internet connection. And I know you've kind of mentioned that kind of reminds you of the Lightning Network. And yeah, I think that's correct. Absolutely. So the one thing that you can do, think about something like, I think the analogy is maybe something like Bitcoin. You can just send something in the quote unquote mail, and when it gets there, it gets there. But with something like Lightning Network or with GRIN, you send something, but then the receiver has to be there to sign for it when it comes, if that makes sense.
Got it. So it's like if I send a letter to your mailbox, the mailman can just drop it off. You don't have to be home.
Right.
But if I send a package to you that needs a signature, you'd better be home or you're going to get that little slip like, hey, delivery failed.
And it's inconvenient. Think about how many times you're like, oh my God, when is this package going to come? Or it comes, you're not there, and then you have to go to the post office. You know what I mean? So that's a huge usability issue. As a mining pool, with my mining pool, one of the biggest challenges is being able to let people transact and withdraw. They either need to withdraw to their wallet, which is on their computer, or to an exchange. And there's just different formats. You can do something where you kind of send a file, or you can have an active HTTP address. And so it's not as simple as just, oh, here's your Bitcoin address, just send it. So usability is definitely a major issue. And I think probably going forward, it will probably be the main issue, at least during the next year or two. And so there are services that are already coming out where they kind of store your message or your transaction
so it's like
when you're offline.
I see. So it's like send my money to this mailbox, etc. place.
It's like a P.O. box.
He'll sign for it, and then I'll go pick
right?
it up, and I hope that they don't get hacked.
Right. And of course, the issue there is that, okay, now you have an intermediary, and usually that means there's some sort of compromise of privacy. If you have a privacy coin, then you're going to sacrifice some privacy for usability. Are you kind of back at square one?
Right, and then you also have to now trust that these guys won't get hacked and lose all the coins that they're storing.
Oh, right, yeah. So there's a lot of challenges there, and obviously, since we are a wallet company, we're constantly thinking about integration, and if it's something where they don't use addresses, I'm already thinking, okay, if there's multiple ways that you can send a transaction to someone. Well, how do you do that in a wallet? You say, oh, hey, do you want to send via file upload, or do you want to do it via HTTP?
Like our whole scan screen gets screwed up.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking is like, yeah, there's not too many. I mean, right now, there's not too many ways to send to someone. I mean, I guess you have QR code versus like copy and paste.
Right.
But that's kind of different. Yeah, because
so if you're in a GRIN wallet in Edge, hypothetically, we don't have it supported. We
Right.
don't have a timeline either. But
Right.
if you're in that, you wouldn't even have a barcode scanning screen. It would probably be like a bunch of buttons screen, like, okay, I want to do this kind of payment or that kind of payment.
Right. And then you'd have to figure out, okay, well, how do you upload a file to someone else directly from within the app if you don't know where that person is? You know, because we don't really identify other people as usernames. And I don't think we intend to.
Right. So it would probably have to be something where it's like you want to receive money, you go into Edge, and it like opens up a port on your phone and then says, "Here's the port number. Now give that to the other guy who wants to send you."
But how do you give it? How do you give it to the other guy?
Maybe it's like a barcode. I don't know.
Yeah,
like, it needs to be standardized.
Can we do something like that where we open up a port on a phone?
That's a whole other can of worms.
And that's what I'm thinking too. And then there's the question too of like, okay, well, what is on the phone? Is it a light client? You know, is it what kind of wallet is it?
Like a blockchain service,
Right. I'm like, are we storing the whole GRIN blockchain or not? So there's a big question there as well. Even though it scales well,
it's still
if you're
gigabytes.
Yeah, you're talking gigabytes. Yeah. So there's a lot of challenges there, and it'll be interesting. The inflation rate, some people have issues with that, but early on, I don't think that really matters. I think more than anything, if there are issues with adoption, then that can push the GRIN price down for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was written in Rust. So the thing that we're looking for, since our stack is written in JavaScript, is that it'd be nice to have a JavaScript library for GRIN, because that way at least we'd be able to start playing around with it. But that's one of those things that's just not there yet. I don't know how long until I have something like that.
Monero is C++.
Right.
And we did manage to cram it into our app.
Right.
Using the C++ code, we tried several approaches, and we finally found one that worked. We tried WebAssembly. We tried compiling it directly to JavaScript. And I think in the end, the Monero code's actually running natively on the phone.
Right.
And then we have this crazy bridge that goes from our JavaScript code into the native code and then back out.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, it's nuts.
Sometimes you wonder whether it's...
was it worth it? Well,
yeah.
It's the only privacy coin that we support that has privacy, so I think it's worth it.
Yeah, yeah. And I think the more I play around with other currencies, the more I wonder 10 years from now whether there will really be so many currencies that people are using, because the truth is that your average person doesn't want to have to figure out
50 different coins.
50, and what the difference is between one and the other. I think you'll find that there are some things that they maybe just won't care about. Privacy might be one of them. I think there's a good chance that could be the case. But no one knows what the future looks like, right?
Yeah. I mean, I can see a good space for a privacy coin to really dominate, like a Monero or a GRIN,
right? Because
there's always going to be that need for financial privacy. I mean,
right.
You don't expect everything to be public. I don't want my paycheck to be public. I mean, you don't want whatever.
Right.
It's the natural thing for people to expect. There's a billion. Well, I don't know if billions, but there's a lot of coins that are just clones of Bitcoin. It's Bitcoin with tweak a few numbers and nothing changes. Some of those may survive. Many of them won't.
Yeah.
If you're adding something special, something new, Dash has the Dash Foundation, so that's like a marketing machine that's like constantly pumping their coins, so that's good.
And they're always pushing for merchant adoption as well. Yeah, I have to give Dash credit. I think people, what's the term? They neglect to think about merchant adoption.
The ecosystem as a whole, right?
Oh yeah, Dash is pretty good at that.
They've got Bitcoin Cash. The community is very focused on that sort of thing, but they don't have a centralized organization. Bitcoin is, of course, the granddaddy, so that'll probably always be with us.
Yeah.
And then
you have like the DApp ones, so Ethereum and EOS and stuff like that. I could see maybe like 2 or 3 of those being okay, but after that, it's...
And then you've got a privacy coin. I think that kind of covers the main use cases, unless there's one coin that rule them all that's got super convenient sends, instant confirmations, really efficient scaling, and can run dApps. But who's invented this one yet?
Yeah. Do you lean one way or the other? You think there will be one to dominate, or maybe sometimes one will dominate, and then it'll be a bunch that'll be kind of equals, and then maybe it'll be sort of like a cycle, right?
It could be. I can see this is an analogy from way back when I was a kid. It was always what was going to replace floppy disks, because floppy disks, you could tell that they were aging and they weren't going to be this last forever type of thing. And in the end, nothing replaced floppy disks. It was like CDs were for sending music, DVDs were for movies, the internet was for like sending stuff to your buddies.
Okay.
There was like 5 or 6 different things that replaced the floppy disk.
So maybe you do end up with more options there.
So what replaces the dollars? It could be multiple coins, and that's just okay, because each one has its strength and its weakness. Right.
I will say I think the eco space is at the point where it doesn't really need any more currencies unless there really is something new about the currency.
Unless you're actually solving a problem in some way that others haven't. Like privacy and convenience and instant confirmations and dApps. Like if you could hit that 4 thing all at once, I don't know if that's even mathematically possible.
Yeah, it's funny you say that, because when it comes to privacy, now we're at the point where I think even privacy advocates feel that we have enough privacy options now. We don't really, I'm not going to say we don't need any more. No, unless there's something new, we don't need any more. Right.
But I mean, Monero has its usability issues, because if you send money out, you have to wait for your change to confirm before you can send again. So that can be like 10 minutes or longer.
Right.
GRIN has its issue where you have to be online all the time.
Right.
So I could see like an instant confirmation, scalable privacy coin. No one's done that yet.
Yeah.
Because the privacy mathematics are so complicated that you kind of sacrifice the
You
other
have
features.
to make some sacrifices,
So
right?
if somebody could figure out a way to do all three at the same time, that would be interesting.
Yeah. So that's why I'm always paying attention to what's out there. You know what I mean? Keep my ears, because the one thing I will notice too is that when it came to GRIN and its launch, maybe more than anything, it was crazy how much you start to realize there's like an eco space where people thrive off of one another. You have the miners, you have the mining pools, then you have people who are podcasters and they want in on it. So what they do is they start to cover it and they get more views because it's a hot topic right now. And then along with the mining and the mining pools, the next thing you know, you also have people who make mining software. Right? So it's like, okay, which mining software is the fastest? The miners are going for this one or that one. And then they also charge a small fee as well. So the next thing you know, there's all these different third-party services that are all kind of, that are essentially creating an eco space. And it's a thing of beauty. You watch kind of the invisible hand of the market, ebb and flow this way and that. And it's fun. It's fun. When there's a flow of money, all of a sudden a market and an economy pops up around it.
That's really nice to see. Yeah, that sounds cool.
Yeah, it is fun. All right, so I think that's enough for today. We're past our 30-minute mark. Is there anything else we need to cover here?
Do we have any user questions?
Let's see here. Can the wallet function as GRIN listener to receive coins? I think that's kind of what we were mentioning earlier. As a listener, yeah, I think that's what we were talking about with the port being open. We could, that's one of the things with GRIN is if you're doing HTTP like receiving, you have to have a port open. So I had to have like my Wi-Fi router like port forward one of my ports, and it was just. I'm a developer, but some of the networking sort of IT stuff I'm not good at, and if it's hard for me, then your typical person, your average person, is just never going to be able to get it done.
So let me put it this way: Edge doesn't support GRIN, and we don't know how we're going to support GRIN short term, but. Obviously
interest.
Kylan's interested in
interest.
it. I'm interested in it. So it maybe happen eventually, but it's not something that's going to be straightforward or quick to get done.
And I don't think it's going to be straightforward or quick for any mobile wallets. But hey, we're at least looking at it. Okay, what else do we got? So do we have any conferences going up? I don't remember off the top of my head.
Atlanta, February 8th through 10th,
TabConf. I don't know what TAB stands for. Okay.
Apparently, some of us will be going there. I am not aware of what this conference is.
Yeah, I've never.
I should have prepared better before I did the podcast.
No, you're good. I haven't been to Atlanta before. Okay, that's fine. Well, I think we'll finish up for today. So for those of you who just tuned in for the first time today, someone asks, why did you abandon Airbits? They sound like they're guilt tripping us.
So when we decided to become multi-currency,
right,
we realized that the architecture that we had built for Airbits would not scale to multiple currencies.
Multi-currency,
We would have to rewrite the entire core of the wallet.
Right.
And when we were faced with the prospect of rewriting the entire core of the wallet, we realized it was going to be a long project.
Right.
So rather than try to do it in place and then have Airbits go through this huge transition,
right,
which would take years,
right,
we decided to keep maintaining Airbits as a product,
right,
and do the work on the side. And so once the work was finished, it's a whole new app, so we released it as such.
So is Airbits still in the App Store, or have we officially removed it?
Airbits is still in the App Store.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's not necessarily abandoned yet.
So Edge is really, in a very real sense, Airbits 2.0.
Yeah. No, for sure. That's kind of how I look at it.
It was an internal project to refactor Airbits, and it ended up being such a big project that it ended up replacing it instead of
right.
And to keep, we realized we were not going to get to 100% feature completeness by the time we were ready to launch. So Airbit still has a few features that Edge does not.
Right, but that list of features is decreasing.
We're still working on adding those back to Edge.
Right.
The only feature that we will not be adding back is the business directory, unfortunately.
Yeah, but we could have someone build a plugin in our architecture. I've considered it, but I don't know if the economic incentive is quite there. But I know a lot of people ask about the merchant directory.
So there are merchant directories out there. There's Marco Coino. I think that they're a merchant directory. There's a couple others that are like that are maintained as separate companies, separate projects. If one of those reached out to us and said, hey, we want to be a plugin to Edge the same way that like Glide or Wire or Simplex are plugins to our app, then I think we could entertain that. But we're not going to maintain a directory on our own because that was a lot of work and it was really hard to keep it up to date.
Yeah, and there's, like I said, I don't know if there's always that much economic incentive.
There's not really a lot of money to be made doing that.
Yeah. You know, when I was using Airbits, I really came to like Airbits. And when we first launched Edge, I could see how maybe migrating from Airbits to Edge would be difficult. I mean, it's not that difficult in the sense that you just use your username and password, right?
It's a drop-in replacement. I mean, the same account works both places, which is kind of goes to show that it really is Airbits 2.0.
Right. And Edge, when it first launched, how would I say this? It had performance issues, but I really feel like within the last 3 months or so that Edge's performance is, I'm happy with it. I would say
we're solving all the bugs. I mean, we're gonna have Edge at this point. I feel like is better than Airbits in all the ways except one, and that's Glidera support. We don't have a way to sell money out of the app.
Yeah,
we'll be adding that with Wire shortly, and at that point, I think it'll be complete.
Yeah. So we have a couple more questions. So we'll rattle through them. Did you create this wallet as a competitor to Jaxx? I don't think we created anything as to compete with anyone. We
Airbits was existing before Jaxx.
There you go. Airbits, which is our company as well, right? We rebranded, was there before Jaxx. So, and I don't think you and Paul and the founders created Airbits or Edge to compete with anyone. It was more like to assert yourselves and try to implement wallet software the way that you wanted to.
Well, when we created Airbits originally, way back in, I remember December 2013 meeting with Paul for the very first time, and he was describing the ideal wallet scenario. And I think at that point, it was basically blockchain info was the wallet people used.
Right. I remember using it. Yeah.
So old.
Web wallet.
Yeah, it was a web wallet. But he wanted that architecture in a native mobile app, basically, where it's backed up in encrypted keys, everything's available, the wallet works offline. And so I think in a sense we were competing with blockchain info. That was our initial, we need to beat them.
Right.
And Jaxx kind of came out as a multi-currency wallet.
One of the first.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we added multi-currency support because Bitcoin became unusable. Frankly, it was Bitcoin fees were through the roof. You couldn't do anything with Airbits. No one was using it because why would you spend $20 to move coins? So we needed to add other coins that were usable, and hence Airbits became Edge.
Yeah. I mean, if you guys were still only Airbits and single currency support, it'd be dead in the water, pretty much, right?
You can't swap, so there's no revenue from shape shifting. It's just not a viable business to be in.
Yeah, let's see here. Another quick question. Does Edge have SegWit addresses? Yes, we do. And that's the quick answer, right?
Okay, so the simple answer is the SegWit legacy addresses where it's backwards compatible using 3. So if you create a SegWit Bitcoin wallet in Edge, you'll have those addresses. The actual native SegWit addresses are coming soon. I actually have this, as soon as I get off this podcast, I'm going to be reviewing a ginormous pull request from one of our developers to get the groundwork for that in. So
there you go. Uh-oh, we're holding them up. All right. For those of you asking, yes, this video will be available on YouTube. Sometimes you need to give YouTube a little bit of time for it to like convert it and compile it and process it or whatever. So probably within an hour should be up. And also you should be able to replay it on Twitter and Facebook as well. All right, so I think that's enough for today. We got plenty of stuff to do. It's been an exciting week, and we are here every week, Friday, noon Pacific. So if you didn't get your questions or comments in today, then we can always handle them next week. So till next time, it's William and Kylan. Take care.
See you soon.